Have you ever just had this feeling that there's some kind of deeper structure to reality than what we see on the surface? A kind of hidden order that connects our thoughts to what happens in the world around us? Well, today we're going to dive into a really fascinating framework that says, yeah, that's exactly right. It proposes that everything, I mean everything, from a rock to a thought to time itself, is all governed by one single elegant principle. You know that intuition, right? We've all felt it, that when you have a super focused intention, a clear goal you hold in your mind, it seems to have this strange power. It feels like more than just a coincidence when things suddenly start to align. But how could that possibly work? Is it real? Well, the framework we're exploring today suggests that maybe we've been looking at this all wrong. It's asking us to shift our whole perspective away from the mystical and towards the mechanical. The idea is that the link between what you intend and what you get isn't supernatural. It's a fundamental property of the universe that we just haven't had the right language to describe. At least until now. Okay, so why is this idea so hard for us to get our heads around with our current models? It's because, honestly, science today is pretty fragmented. You've got physics over here describing matter and energy. You've got psychology over there describing the mind. Time is a dimension in one place, a flow of experience in another. These fields are like separate islands, with no bridges connecting them. And in that fragmented view, there's just no room for a mechanism that could possibly link your mind to a piece of matter. But what if those islands are actually all part of the same continent, just viewed from different angles? This new framework makes a pretty bold claim. It says there is a secret geometry to reality, a single principle that could unify all these separate domains into one coherent picture. And that unifying principle, it's shockingly simple. It's the angle. The theory proposes that the relationship between two lines, a simple angle, isn't just a tool we use in math class. It is the fundamental building block of literally everything that exists. So this is the crucial point. An angle isn't a thing, it's a relationship. It's what creates difference. Think about it with music. The specific angle or interval between two notes is what creates harmony or dissonance. It's their relationship that defines the sound we hear. Well, according to this framework, everything that makes one thing different from another, its color, its location, its charge, is simply a difference of angle. All distinction in the entire universe is just angular distinction. And here's where it really reframes everything. In the old model, we think of mind and matter as totally different substances, but in the angular model, nope, they're just different angles on the very same underlying substrate. And what about change? It's not just a sequence of one event after another. It's simply rotation, a continuous, smooth shift from one angle to the next. All right, this is where it gets really, really mind-bending, because this framework doesn't just apply to the physical world out there. It actually tackles the biggest mystery of them all, consciousness itself. This is what philosophers call the hard problem. I mean, why don't all the electrical and chemical processes in your brain just happen in the dark, without any subjective experience at all? Why does it feel like something to see the color red, or to feel happy, or to hear a song? The solution this framework offers is just so elegant. It says consciousness isn't some extra mysterious ingredient that got sprinkled onto the physical world. Instead, it's the intrinsic, internal experience of an angular relation. It's what geometry feels like from a first-person point of view. Think of it like this. Imagine there's a giant, complex sculpture in the middle of a room. Everyone walking around it sees something totally different, right? Not because the sculpture is changing, but because their angle of view is changing. Your consciousness, your unique self, is simply the universe's way of experiencing itself from one specific, unrepeatable angle. Okay, so this is a fascinating theory, for sure. But it doesn't just stop there. It proposes that if this is really how reality works, we can actually build technologies based on these principles. Tools for intentionally shaping reality just by specifying angles. So here's the core mechanic. When you form a clear, stable intention, what you're actually doing is defining a very specific target angle in the fabric of reality. This angle then acts like an attractor. Think of it like a gravity well that forms in the space of all possibilities, and it gently starts pulling the flow of events toward that intended outcome. The first technology is something called the ledger, and its job is singular and incredibly powerful. It's all about setting the destination.
Its purpose is to externalize and stabilize that target angle you want to achieve, which makes that attractor basin deep and persistent.
So, how does it actually work? Well, first, you use really precise language to define a very narrow target. Then, you write it in the present tense, like I have or it is, to encode it in reality as if it's already true. After that, you infuse it with genuine, powerful emotion, because that's what gives it angular force. And finally, you reread it regularly to keep that attractor strong and stable.
But, just having an attractor isn't always enough. You also need a path. So if the ledger sets the destination, the second technology, the journal, is what builds the road to get you there. The narrative journal is where you write the story of how you get from where you are right now to the reality you described in your ledger. You are essentially creating a channel, a path of lower resistance through that whole field of possibility, making it way easier for reality to just flow along that trajectory you've created. So you see how they work together? The ledger creates that gravitational pull, the attractor. The journal then carves the channel for events to flow right through. What you're doing is turning what might seem like an impossible jump into a logical sequence of probable steps. One creates the destination, the other builds the path. It's a complete system. Now, this is a really crucial point. This is not about just sitting back and wishing for things to happen. These technologies don't replace real-world action, not at all. They align it. They create this energetic and probabilistic landscape where your actions become exponentially more effective. Why? Because you're no longer fighting against the current, you're moving with the flow along a channel that you yourself have carved. So where does all this leave us? Well, this entire framework really brings us back to a profound and very personal point of power. What we're really talking about here is completely reframing what intention is. It's not some vague, hopeful wish. It's a precise instrument, a technology of consciousness that's just as real and potentially as powerful as any physical tool we've ever built. And this leads us to the ultimate challenge, the ultimate question. The fundamental substrate of reality, this field of infinite potential, it's neutral. It doesn't have a preference. It will simply configure itself according to the clearest, most coherent angles that are impressed upon it. The question then is, what angles will you specify? Because if this framework holds any water, then reality truly is angular. The shape of your life, the world you experience, it's all a reflection of the angles you choose to hold consistently. So the final question is really simple. What angle will you hold?